Andrew Ng compared AI to electricity, the new electricity. And pretty much like electricity, we don't think of it unless it's not there. But with ChatGPT, it brought this electricity out from the background and into our hands. Perhaps the first time we talked about it was, the word was coined, was during the Dartmouth conference in 1956, and we've had a history of AI, including its winter, etc. But with this current phase and with your long history of working in it, how do you feel where we are in this whole journey towards the future with AI?
I've been dreaming about AI ever since I was that grade 12 boy who was sitting here reading science fiction in the seat that you're sitting in just now. Mm-hmm. And for 40 years I've been working at a university, working in various research laboratories around the world, trying to realize those dreams. So it is an overnight success that was 50, 60 odd years in the making, myself and many of my colleagues working on the field. So it's a bit surprising in some respects that was the thing that finally caught people's imaginations. But it finally did catch people's imagination because AI is clearly becoming a part of our lives. It's being used to accelerate the discovery of fast radio bursts, as we just heard. It was being used to help land the Indian lunar rover on the moon because there's a significant time delay. So you can't remotely control the lunar landing. So either you have astronauts on board, which is what the Americans did when they landed on the Apollo, or you have to have AI that's smart enough to see there's a boulder. You can't land the rover there because the rover will fall over and then the mission will be destroyed. So we're seeing AI turn up in so many parts of our lives. We've still got a significant distance to go. I still have huge respect for the human brain. We're trying to emulate what the human brain can do with computers. And what we can do today is still somewhat limited. There's some wonderful examples of how stupid, for example, ChatGPT can be. I'll give you my favorite example because I discovered it a week ago, which is you ask ChatGPT, how many B's are in the word bananas? And it will confidently tell you, there are 3 B's in the word bananas.
Maybe you said 3 bananas.
But actually, it's quite interesting to understand why it makes that mistake. It makes that mistake because people struggle to spell the word bananas. And the problem with the word bananas is just it got 3 A's or 3 N's or 2 N's and 2 A's. How many N's and A's are in the word bananas? That's the thing that people struggle with. And so ChatGPT is trained on lots of questions that people have asked on the web and elsewhere, where people have asked about spelling, in particular the A's and N's in the word bananas. So any question you ask ChatGPT about letters in the word bananas, the answer's 2 or 3. But it's not really understanding the word. So that just demonstrates that we've still got a significant distance to go, that the intelligence that we're building in machines is still very artificial, very different to human intelligence. And how long it's going to take? Well, because it's the question I asked 300 colleagues, Andrew Ng, and various other of my colleagues working in AI, experts around the world, when would machines match humans in their intelligence? And the average answer they gave was 2062. Now, I should be honest, there was huge variance in their answers. There was huge, great difference in their answers. But I think what was important was that none of them were saying it was going to take 2 or 3 years. Equally, very few of them were saying it was going to take 200 or 300 years. They all said it was going to take 20 or 30 or 40 years. And I think that is quite profound, to think the idea that in 20 or 30 years, perhaps by 2062, perhaps by 2052, who knows, we will have machines that will be as smart as us. And if they're as smart as us, I think we should have some humility and suppose maybe they're going to perhaps be smarter than us. No one can play chess as well as a computer now.
Sure.
No one can read breast mammograms as well as a computer. No one can translate tweets from Mandarin into English as well as a computer. They're doing those things at superhuman level. So imagine by 2062 or whenever it is, machines might match and then surpass human intelligence. And that should be a moment of humility for mankind, but also a moment of, well, let's call it as people do, of concern. Mm-hmm. If you think about the room we're in today, everything you see is the product of human intelligence. The lights, the radio mics, everything is
the moon landings.
The moon landings, yes. The fact that India's got to the moon, that was a product of Indian intelligence. And if we're going to now suddenly not be the smartest thing anymore, have even more intelligence in these machines, what sort of world is that going to be? And how should we ensure that it's a better world?
There's the whole question around privacy, around bias, around plagiarism, copyright, and I think there's, as much as there's a race towards AI, there's a race towards the regulation of AI, which is happening across the world, and perhaps that's a silver lining in a sense that people have understood that we need to regulate this technology. We are sitting today at a bio conference, at a medical conference, and I was introduced to what AI could do, Toby, during my student years when when we first heard about Watson, IBM's Watson, it didn't really live up to the promise eventually, but then it did have a lot of good stuff that, in terms of detecting cancer, etc. And then the other big, huge aha moment was DeepMind's AlphaFold, which, started to predict how proteins in the human body would fold, and that could be a massively new, huge revolution for medical science and technology. How do you see, and what are your hopes of AI helping us, in this field of bioscience, of medical, of disease prevention, and do you see some optimism there?
We're going to see lots of deep fake audio and video that is being generated just perhaps for us, to fool us, to make us do things that are not in our interest. And we've already seen in some elections, for example, we saw that in the Argentinian election. We saw people using AI to create persuasive content. There was an election recently in Slovakia. Some deepfake audio was released right at the last moment, and observers have suggested that had a material impact on the election. Now, a third of the planet get to vote next year in democracies, all of Europe, the United Kingdom, in all of India, the United States. A lot of us get a choice to vote. And I am concerned what happens where the people take these technologies and use them in ways to persuade people for things that are not in their interest. And the great beauty, but also the great challenge of the technology is now how accessible it is. It used to be you had to have some expertise, and it took some skill and effort and time and money to be able to do this stuff. Now, for example, to make a picture of Trump as an example, one that we've already seen, Trump being arrested by the NYPD, it's a deep fake image, a very realistic looking image, but it just took someone to have the idea. And they typed into one of these AI tools like Midjourney or Stable Diffusion and wanted a photorealistic of Trump being arrested by the NYPD. Of course, Trump was not arrested by the NYPD. He was arrested by the Georgia police. But that sort of imagery is enough to provoke a riot, is enough to perhaps begin to pervert the course of our democracy. And now anyone can do it.
At the end of it, it's not the machines that we have to fear, if we do fear. It's actually the human beings who are, making them, controlling them, programming them. One of the things which, back in Cambridge, which I read about was that it's not even about who decides. It's about who decides who decides. Yeah. And you can keep on going back on that who decides thing to figure out as to how you're controlling or managing the potential risks, and at the same time, however, harnessing the great benefits that this amazing technology can give us. Thank you very much. Thanks for being here, and thanks
Pleasure.
for being a lovely audience.